Every now and then you'll read a passage from Scripture that just seems to explode in your imagination. Not so much with understanding, but with questions. And one of those passages for me is the statement that Jesus made to his disciples as he was getting ready to face the way in which his destiny was unfolding, that he, the one who came to save the world, was going to be asked to do something that, in a way, it seems, when you listen to the story, that it wasn't exactly what Jesus expected, and that was to give in to evil. And when he would tell his disciples, look, this is my destiny, I have to give in to this evil, and you think, well, that's the antithesis of what we're here for. We're here to fight evil, we're here to overcome it, we're here to destroy it. And that whole notion comes out of our mind. Our mind is binary by its nature, and it divides things and puts them at odds with each other. And there's this good world that we want, and there's this evil world that we don't want. And so what we want to do is destroy this one and save that one. And if you look at the logic of that, you end up with something like Nazi Germany, where you say, we'll destroy everything that's imperfect and we'll have a perfect world. So what's the wisdom that we're looking for? Because the mind is not wise in the way the heart is wise. And I go back to the heart all the time with you, trying to understand, help you understand that this is where we work best out of this. It's where our intuition is. It's where our intention flows out of us. And so we turn to that source of intuition, which goes beyond logic. And the intuition I want us to have is that there is something important in this world about giving in to things that are destructive and horrible and terrible. And one of the reasons we might look at that as a problem is evil is there. It goes on such a level that we don't, thank God, have to face all of it all the time. But if we knew the kind of horrible things that were going on between adults and other adults and adults and children, abuse and all that kind of stuff, it would just overwhelm us. But it's there. And so the key is not to resist it, to learn from the work of this God-man Jesus, who's our model, that there's something essential about giving into evil. So what can I tell you about that? How can I help you with that? How can I help myself with that? And it's this. Whenever you're not living in the wisdom of the heart, when you're living in the knowledge of the brain or the drive of the ego, what you're going to see is that you're going to feel and sense negative feelings. And the negative feelings are three that I'm always trying to help people be free of. One is shame, another anger, another fear. And shame is that notion that there's something wrong with me. It's one thing to say I'm guilty of something, but shame goes way beyond guilt. It's a feeling of a lack of value. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with the world that allows evil. There's something wrong with human nature because it can do evil to other people. Then that must mean that when we have this binary world of perfection, it's not healthy for us. It's not the way we're made. We're supposed to be able to embrace things that aren't fully as we would like them to be, because there has to be some value in that, surrendering. There's value in surrendering to imperfection in myself, in the world. Anger is similar. It's like it's not fair. It's not fair that somebody works hard and does everything they can to make their life as good as it can be, and then some tragedy strikes them and they go through a horrible time of either being destroyed, taken from this life, or they're in pain. And it seems like that's wrong. There should not be that kind of pain for good people. It makes me angry. And fear. If imperfection and evil is always a negative, then we live in constant fear that it'll happen to us. So I can tell you one thing for certain. There are three things that Jesus intended and wanted to see happen because of his ministry. Number one, he'd open the eyes of the blind. He'd help us to see what's real and true, the world as it is. He would somehow enable us to be free enough to be who we're called to be. We would not be living a lie because we think we have to be something we're not. Self-acceptance. And there was something so important about the whole notion of being, I don't know, at peace. So peace is the sign that we're in a place of wisdom. And when you look at tragedy, when you look at a horrible thing that happens, you experience the loss of a friend, you see an accident, and it can be so frightening and discouraging and fear and shame creating. You have to understand that kind of reaction implies that there's something missing, some piece of wisdom. And it's everything has purpose, everything has meaning. And somehow in God's plan, the world is never intended to be perfect. It's never intended to be free of pain. But if that's intended to be there, then it has some actually, what's the word I want? It's essential that we learn how to deal with that. And one of the ways to deal with that is to not care. I don't care what happens to me or anybody else, doesn't matter. And that doesn't work. No, the only thing that works is some kind of conviction that in the process of unfolding an understanding of who we are and why we're here, it demands embracing painful, horrible, destructive things, knowing that somehow that's part of the cycle of life. It's part of the way it works. When you think about the way, I don't know, the way the world works in terms of nature, I mean, there's darkness, there's light, there's winter, there's summer, there's fullness, there's emptiness, all that. Could it be that our resistance to evil is based in some kind of illusion of what God intends? And that can be fixed pretty easily. If you just understand that what God intends is not perfection or lack of pain or suffering, but growth, change, evolution. And there is no way to leave one frame of reference without going through something painful. To even change your way of seeing something can be painful. So pain is very, very mysterious. Essential. Embrace it. Try to fathom what it's creating. There's story after story you can find of people who went through some tragedy and will tell you later in life, if it wasn't for that, their life would have been a mess. And that's a little oversimplified, because then it means, see, it's all just worked out fine. It takes something much more demanding, surrendering to a plan that you'll never fully understand. Can you do that? Can I do that? I don't know. I like to figure things out. I like to know what's going on. What if there's something in the nature of the relationship God is asking you to have with Him in order to partner with Him in the work you're doing, that you surrender anything that sounds like I've got it figured out and I know how it's supposed to be? Nobody knows how it's supposed to be. I somehow always feel the closest to Jesus' humanity when I think of Him in the Garden of Gethsemane, when He had to say to His Father, look, I'll accept this. Okay, I know it has to happen this way, but could we not do it now? Don't you love that? Could I not be in the pain of this situation now? Could we just avoid this now? We'll do it later. It's just a resistance. Everything's on the other side of acceptance. Surrender. Allowing things to be. Knowing somehow, convinced in our gut, that nothing happens without purpose, and everything that happens is to bring about something wonderful and life-giving to everyone.